it's a rather large first squad in your second time round. What's the logic about naming so many players? Is it just to keep them all motivated?
I guess there's a bit of that, Tony. Yes, there's a bit of that, and also I think I've not to name them before, have I? So I guess if I don't name them, they might think they're not interested, not even got a chance of being in there, and we'll get injuries at the weekend certainly. So I kind of have to name them, because if I don't, then I can't go back and name them. They can turn me down and say they can't have the players. So that's my logic, if I needed any.
And the recall of Glenn Whelan, I mean, he got a lot of love at the end, which we thought was going to be his last game for Ireland, and got a good send-off. But obviously you've been impressed enough with him, and do you think he may have a part to play for you?
Well, I rang him and I asked him if he'd retired, and he said no, he hadn't. So whether he was retired as opposed to he retired himself, I don't know. He's playing very well, yeah. He's playing with kind of Huron as well, so there's a bit of a partnership there. You'd probably all put them two will be playing in midfield now, but anyway. But at least there is some understanding of playing together, those two. I wonder about our squad of midfield players, about somebody who could do a specific role as a sitter. He certainly can. Whether he ends up in being in the final squad remains to be seen, of course. But I've been impressed with him, yes.
I can hardly imagine that you'd call him back into the provisional squad from retirement, so to speak, and then not bring him.
Well, I could. I might want him for a specific game at any stage. And I think just knowing that he's not being forgotten about, that he's still being thought about as a player that can do a job in the national team, I think he'd be pleased with that, I would have thought.
What about Darren Murphy? You were thinking about him, I imagine. Did you have a conversation with him about bringing him back?
I did, and he told me he'd retired. He doesn't particularly want, he's gone away from being away. I think he's of an age where he likes to have that time off when the international breaks come. It'll benefit him in terms of his club career. But I did say, if I need you, and I called you, and I think the final answer was, well, we'll see. So it wasn't a no. Who knows, there might be a game I might need him for, but I didn't put him in because he's been at pains, I think, to tell people recently that he's retired.
How much do you have to plan for the second game of the doubleheader as much as the first? Obviously, the usual mantra is take every game as it comes, but you've got the Gibraltar game away, and then you've got to think of a Georgia side who's getting closer and closer to us, it seems, over the years.
Well, in naming the squad that I've done, I've considered that. So, what if we went to Gibraltar and I wanted to change somebody and bring somebody else in? So I've named a sufficient amount of players. I think just a different surface, coming back, recovery after that is different than having played on grass, certainly. Not bemoaning the pitch at all, it is just different. And just travelling back. But I've named sufficient players if I want to change it, Tony, and do something different for the next game.
You've gone to have a look at the pitch, haven't you? I mean, what did you think of the ground, the venue? And
I've been. It's an AstroTurf pitch. I mean, it's, as I said, I was going to go and see it. I wanted to go and see it and see the surroundings and get a feel for it, which I've done. It's a very small stadium. There's a Rock of Gibraltar behind and one goal, and there's the airport behind the other. It's an unusual, it will be an unusual place for players to be playing. Certainly with the stadiums that the players playing now. But it's their stadium, it's their home. They've got it ready and prepared to play in it, and we've got to go and do a job there. We've got to go and win.
Does it change the approach in a way, though? Do you try and keep the ball on the ground more because of the surface?
We go and play football on it, Tony. I'm not sure I quite understand that one a little bit.
Do you think the surface changes the way you approach the game?
Well, I've asked them to be I've asked the surface to be exactly the same when we train it on a Friday evening, because depending on how much water they put on it, it can have a real effect on the pitch. Years ago, when it was allowed and you used to go and play on an AstroTurf pitch, they'd let you train it on a Friday, and it'd be bone dry, and then on a Saturday there'd be a hose pipe on it for 3 hours prior to it, so the surface is different. And I've asked that it's exactly the same, but I've watched games from the Nations League, and actually when they hit the ball in behind it doesn't run out, it sits up. And so we'll be training on the AstroTurf at Abbottstown and trying to get a feel for it.
And finally, from me, McGeady, back in your plans again. He's been very impressive for Sunderland. Obviously, you think he can do a job for you as well?
Well, he's in the squad, so he's got a chance. But equally, you know, Ronan Curtis, some of the younger ones have impressed me. Ronan Curtis, Callum O'Dowda, who've done very well at their clubs and both been scoring goals. Aidan's, yes, he's been playing. He's playing with one of the better teams in the league as well. But yeah, we kind of, Robbie Brady's just coming back. James McLean's been playing, scored. I went to watch him at Ipswich. We kind of got a lot of players in those wide areas, whereas other places not as many. Pleasure.
Mick, can I ask you about Patrick Bamford? Obviously, a lot of speculation about whether you might be able to get him. Obviously, not in the squad at the moment. Have you given up on him?
Not at all. No, my last contact with him was on Saturday morning after Saturday morning, Sunday morning when he played. When did they play? Friday night, was it? They won Friday night. And just to congratulate him on his goals and the 1-2 at the edge of the box was a sublime finish, it was. And just asked him if he still wanted to continue to join us. He said yes, and I'm hoping to meet him. So, no, I haven't given up on it, no, not at all.
So you're pretty positive then. Would June be the likely position when he might come
Well,
in?
if it does, it's going to be June now because we're not going to get it for these games. But I've made that clear to him, and I'm hoping to see him ASAP.
Do you think you have to convince him, or the conversation you had on the phone, you sense that was it? He's coming.
I asked him the question: is it still the same? Do you still want to join us? Do you still want to come? Yes, was the answer. And so then it's a matter of meeting him, just having a chat with him. And I stressed to him that if he wants to be involved in June, we'll have to get it done as quickly as possible.
And Nathan Redmond, any update on him?
Nothing at all.
In terms of the players you have brought in, James Collins obviously scoring a lot of goals for Luton and Podrick Hammond as well. What can you tell us about those two?
Well, exactly that. They're scoring goals. And James Collins certainly scored goals at... Actually, both of them have scored goals at their respective levels, wherever they've been. Both got good goal-scoring records. Podrick Hammond, of course, has been brought to the attention of everybody by his goals in the FA Cup. I tend not to judge people on a couple of games in cup competitions because teams do have really good times and they can get a hero from them. But he's scored goals all season for his club. James Collins has scored wherever he's been. We used to watch him when he was at Aston Villa in the reserves and I was at Wolves. And always been a competent player, always been a goal scorer. And if you look at the squad, you probably see that we're not... the lads are in there. David McGoldrick's had an excellent season. Sean Maguire's had an excellent season since he's got back from injury. But if we can help them out, Murph retiring, it's somebody of a different type, to be quite honest.
Mick, we spoke to John O'Shea, former captain there on Monday, and he said that Bamford would be a welcome addition to the squad. But he said that after that, the chasing of players has to stop. You know, players who might qualify through the so-called granny rule.
I'll wait till he's sat in this chair, shall we? I love that one. That's good.
Do you think it does have to stop? Or?
It's amazing how people's opinions as a player or an ex-player suddenly changes when you sat in the hot seat. So I won't answer it. We'll wait and see.
Just on the players that...
I mean, England have done it, haven't they? So I will answer. England have done it. They've chased one of our better ones. And they've took him. So it's not only us that's doing it. I think it's my job here to have the best team possible of players that qualify. And that's what I'll continue to do.
Do you think maybe if somebody like that comes into the squad and some of the players who, are Irish born and qualified, that there might be, it might cause a bit of disruption in the dressing room? Would that be a concern at all?
Not at all. No, because I've been in the dressing room when it's happened, if you remember. I've actually walked into the dressing room and, took somebody's place who was born in Ireland or played. And did it cause any consternation or any upset? I don't know, not with me. I played in 88, 90, and had a pretty good time, to be quite honest. And a lot of other guys who were in that squad weren't born and bred in Ireland, and I've never seen any trouble with it at all.
Just on some of the players that you mentioned just before there who are playing below the second tier in English football, do you think they're players who are capable of playing at a higher level, or is it just a case where Ireland have to accept now that we maybe have to recruit a lower standard of player?
I think that's a little bit unfair anyway, in your quote as a lower standard of player. I'm talking about players who are playing at their level and they're scoring goals, and I don't think that can be easily dismissed, to be quite honest with you. And both of them, if we're talking about James Collins and Podrick Hammond, have had good seasons. And I think that should be recognised in the fact that I've called them up, as opposed to sort of insulting them, which I'm not going to do.
Yeah, no, that's what I just want to know if you think they're capable of playing at a higher level, is maybe this could help them.
I think that if you've got somebody in a rich vein of form, goal scorers, you may just require that at some stage, and putting somebody on who's not scored 20 goals a season, I'd soon have somebody, if I know a chance falls to him, he might just put it in the net, and that's what I'm looking at. And you know what, who knows, we've seen, I bet you didn't have your money on Podrick Hammond scoring too, did you, in the games he's played, in the two teams he played against?
I did, but
could you show me that betting slip?
Just to finish then as well, because obviously we're going to be hosting games here, Mick, do you think, is there more pressure on you now to qualify in this tournament?
I don't think there can be any more pressure put on, is there, than I put on myself, to be quite honest, in terms of doing it. But there'll be a great expectancy now that we've got games here. And yeah, of course it does add a little bit to it, because it'll be a lot better tournament if we're in it.
Mick, from the squad you've named, there's a really strong emphasis on goal scoring, goal scorers. That whole argument and conversation about Robbie Keane never being really replaced.
Can I just jump in there, because I've never actually said anything about Robbie Keane.
No.
That's never been mentioned from my lips. And
no, that's
I don't
more,
know how many teams can replace.
Yeah, no, it's more of a perception from previous regimes. I'm just trying to say, in terms of the international football, have you sort of noticed since you've been away from it that it's got a lot tighter in games, and the importance of a natural score can make a difference in at that level?
No, I didn't think for a minute when I was in it 17 years ago that it was wide open and you'd be scoring goals all the time. But I also understood and recognised that we won games or got through games because we had a wonderful goal scorer. People ask me what's the best game. Probably Robbie Keane scoring against Germany in Japan. He'd got that happy knack. It's great, and everybody wants that. But everybody needs a goal scorer at times, and not at times. You always need them. You need them to win games. Simple as that. But I've not noticed it getting any tighter. No.
So, just in terms of since you took the job up to now, is it as you?
Mind, I haven't been in any international games since I took the job, so I've not noticed anything.
So it's more in terms of envisaged the players available and stuff. Is this as you expected?
Of course, because when I took the job and I get the list of players who are available to me and a list of players who are potentially available to me, there's been no surprises since December the 1st. No, not at all.
And just to finish, have you decided on a captain for your squad? Or are you going to wait till a bit later for that?
No, I haven't. I'll wait till they all come in and see the weekend's games, but I'll wait till they all come in to decide that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mick, since you were with the Ireland team in 2002, you've just been in club management. How have you adapted to the change since coming back to national management in terms of the time that you have with players on the field?
I haven't, have I? I've not. I can't really answer that. I've had no time with anybody at all, so I haven't had to adapt. From Sunday, I will. I don't think that's going to pose me any problems, to be quite honest with you. In terms of being around players, I've been doing that all my life, as a player, as a manager, as a coach, and I don't envisage any problems. But I've not had to adapt yet. We'll see come Sunday.
In the time that you've been watching the Ireland squad that you haven't been manager, have you been watching it and assessing it, thinking in what way that you would play yourself if you were to take over the management job yourself?
No. I think if you look back on what I've been doing since I did it, was Sunderland, Wolves, Ipswich. I've had my hands full, so I don't look at other teams and think about how I'm going to do it. I've generally been thinking how I'm going to do my own team. So no, I haven't.
And just finally for me, Georgia, obviously we had a 100% record against Georgia up until last September, where we drew and ultimately cost us a place in automatic qualification. In the qualifiers for the last Euros, they took points away from Scotland, which ultimately let us overtake them and reach our playoff spot. How important do you see in not overlooking Georgia, home and away, for this qualifier?
I wouldn't overlook anybody. I think it's important to treat them all the same and to prepare them just like you would. If we're preparing for Denmark and Switzerland, we'll prepare exactly the same for Georgia and for Gibraltar. I wouldn't dismiss anybody. And I've seen bits of them. I've seen them on the analysis. And Georgia are a very good football team. Keep the ball really well. No, I'd be very cautious of them.
Hi Mick, how's it going?
Hello, how are you doing?
How are you getting on? Just on Patrick Bamford, you obviously stressed to him that you'd like to get it sorted soon. Have you actually set him a deadline?
No, I've tried to get a date to meet him. I mean, I've gone through this before where he's been injured. I couldn't see him. He was going to travel down to QPR. That game was cancelled and replayed. And I've been trying to get to see him. I've been trying to get to see him. Hopefully we can before we travel to Gibraltar. But that's not me setting him a deadline saying it's got to be done before then. That's me just trying to get it done.
Yeah. Is there a danger though that this could drag on, just like the Declan Rice situation?
I don't know. If he doesn't see me, then yeah, probably could.
Yeah. You're not overly worried or overly stressed about the situation?
No, because I can't play. He's not my player. If we meet up and he wants to play, and I'd be delighted if he does, because quite clearly he's a talented player, and if he really wants to come and play, then we'll get it done. But I'm not. No, I don't worry about things like that, because why would I?
Just word on James McCarthy. Have you been following his recovery?
Yes, I have. And I've been speaking to him. I spoke to him a couple of times, tried to get him, hoping he would go out on loan at Christmas in the January window. They wouldn't let him go, or he couldn't go for whatever reason. And he's not started again for a long time. So I think he's one of our best midfield players. But best midfield players who don't play, they're not the best midfield players. You need people who are playing games, who are battle hardened.
Yeah, and when he is back, he could be a very important player for you. Do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to have him back, and I've stressed that to him. Even getting games. The last time I was talking about him playing in the 23s and getting some football time. Because if he played 2 or 3 games in there, at least he would have had those 90 minutes. And I can't stress how important that is. Very rare in my time somebody who's been out that. No, never in my time. Somebody who's been out that long, would I let them just go straight back into the first team? They would have had to play in the reserves or the 23s. Or the 21s, or whatever it was called at the time. You need football before you go back into the first team.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Mick, do you know how many players will be, like, what are the numbers of that final squad?
23.
23.
Three keepers.
Okay, yeah. And my second quick-fire question is, Liam Kelly at Reading was a player who was in previous squads and then decided to pull out about a year ago. Have you met with him? Is he going to commit to Ireland?
I haven't met with him, no. I don't know if he's going to commit to Ireland.
Yeah.
He was pretty non-committal, I believe, the last time. And the last I've heard, I think it might have been through John O'Shea's conversation, actually, that he wants to concentrate on his club career and get back in the team and get playing. But when I've seen him, and I saw him last season, was it last season, beginning of this? Can't remember now. I think he's played well.
Yeah. But, sir, are you kind of trying to meet him, like, with Bamford, or is it just...
I'm over, sorry.
Are you trying to meet him as regard, like you are
double
with
up.
Bamford?
No, I haven't. No, I haven't, no.
Okay, cool.
Last questions? Richard?
Hi Mick,
Hello.
just on Callum Robinson, is he back to fitness or is there a reason why he's not in the squad? Because apparently the perception was that he's back. Is it just too soon?
Apparently he trained last week, but I'm just going back to the gentleman's question there, that somebody who's been out for that long. You know, if he played on Saturday, if he turns up and he plays on Saturday, and I rang Alex Neil up and said, is it all right, can I put him in the squad? He'd let me put him in if I needed him. So I've no concerns about that. But he hasn't played, and he's been out for a long time.
And Alan Brown, it's been a while since we had a goal-scoring midfielder. Is he someone you could build a team around?
Well, he's somebody who can bring goals to a game, that's for sure. He scored 12 this season, and I watched him at QPR, played well there. Watched him at Millwall, they were excellent at Millwall. Him and Sean Maguire. I thought Sean Maguire's performance was top class. But going back to it, you know, goal scorers, and certainly goal scorers from midfield, players getting in the box and that happy knack, that's a lovely asset to have in a team, that.
Kieran Sadlier is one of those players. He's playing with Doncaster. He hasn't done too badly, probably not performing as well as he'd like, but is he somebody that was on your radar?
No, not until he went to Doncaster, and then of course I've had a couple of reports about him, and when he's come on, he's done okay, but I don't think he's in front of the players I've put in. So it's up to him to play there, do well, and then put himself on my radar.
And lastly, the Irish Messi, Darragh O'Connor. Have you seen anything about him? Have you seen those comments? League of Ireland, Cork City.
Have you read anything I've said about Darragh O'Connor recently?
Yeah, you said that you were impressed with him. Have you seen anything else?
Well, then that's quite clearly you did. So I was impressed with him. The one game I saw, he was the best player on the pitch, I thought, and he was the one for me that stood out. How he took people on, and he got a couple of good crosses in. Then he went and played on the inside. I thought it was a good performance. Yeah, I didn't realise he was the Irish Messi though.
According to Pat Dolan.
Well, that's. If Pat says he is, I'm not going to argue with him.
Mick, is Will Keane fully eligible now? Said he would have been, said on the FAI's website that he would have been in the squad had not been injured. Is that all done and dusted?
It's irrelevant, isn't it, because he's injured?
Yeah, but would he have been?
I don't know. I'm not quite sure about that. I didn't think he was, but
no, he's not eligible. Okay.
Oh yeah, he's not eligible.